If you click this video, you already saw the thumbnail, that Amish kitchen with no thermostat, no electric bill, and a pantry full of food. Tonight I am going to walk you through 20 hacks that built that life inside the house you already own. 11 years ago, I walked into a farmhouse outside Millersburg, Ohio. I spent 20 minutes looking for the thermostat. There wasn't one. There never had been. And that family was warmer than my house ever was. That was the day I knew the rest of us had been lied to. Something inside you already knows it too. The grocery bill keeps climbing, the power bill keeps climbing, the pension check keeps shrinking. And somewhere in the back of your mind, you remember your mother or your grandfather mentioning how they got through the 1930s without losing the house, without losing their dignity, without ever asking the government for a dime. That memory is not nostalgia, that memory is a survival manual. And tonight I am going to walk you through 20 of them, one by one. For the last 11 years, I have been driving back roads through Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, and Holmes County, Ohio, sitting at kitchen tables with Amish families who never stopped doing the things the rest of us were taught to forget. What I learned will lower your grocery bill, cut your utility bill, and put food on your shelves that costs almost nothing. Stay until hack number 20, because that one comes straight out of a 1,942 USDA field report, a document the federal government read, understood, and quietly shelved for 83 years. Most of these you can finish this weekend in the house you already own for under $100 total. You do not need new construction. You do not need acres of land. You need about an hour, a few dollars, and the willingness to remember. Let me start with something most people get completely wrong about the Great Depression. They picture bread lines, they picture dust storms, they picture men in suits jumping out of windows. What they do not picture is a community of plain-dressed farmers in Pennsylvania who came out of those 10 years with money in the bank, full pantries, intact farms, and not a single member on government relief. That is not folklore. That is documented history. In 1939, a black-owned newspaper called the Afro-American wrote that the Amish had been so successful at solving their economic problems during the Depression that federal farm authorities ought to be studying them instead of plowing crops under and limiting production. Think about that sentence for a moment. The newspaper was telling Washington, the people you are paying to fix this should be going to school on these farmers. So what did the Amish know that nobody else seemed to remember? Hack number 1 is the most quietly powerful of all of them, and it costs you nothing. It is the principle of 5 steps before you spend $1. When something breaks or runs out in an Amish household, they do not drive to the store. They walk through 5 questions in order. Can I make this myself? If not, can I trade for it with a neighbor? If not, can I pay cash for it? If not, can I take a small loan and pay it off this season? And if none of that works, can I repair or repurpose what I already have? There is a story in a book called Money Secrets of the Amish about a family who had a pile of worn-out clothing that nobody else would have looked at twice. They tore the cloth into strips, wove the strips into rugs, and traded 50 or 60 of those rugs for a heifer, a live milking cow, from rags. Most Americans throw away $300 of clothing a year. That same closet in Amish hands would have produced a year of milk. Hack number 2 is the rain barrel under every downspout. The Amish never stopped doing this, and city dwellers were quietly taught it was old-fashioned. A standard roof in an average American rainstorm sheds over 600 gallons of clean water. That water is free. It does not show up on your bill. It does not require a permit in most of this country if you are using it for your garden, your livestock, or your cleaning. 1 barrel under 1 downspout saves the average homestead between $40 and $100 a year in water costs and gives you reserve in a drought. The Amish in conservative communities still catch rainwater the way their great-grandparents did during the Depression, when paying for municipal water was simply not an option for most rural families. Hack number 3 is what they called coffee soup, and it sounds strange until you taste it. During the Depression, when bread went stale, no Amish woman threw it away. She tore it into pieces, poured hot black coffee over it, added a splash of cream or milk, a spoon of sugar if she had it, and served it as breakfast. They called it wet toast. It used up old bread, it used up the last of the morning coffee, and it filled a working man before he went out to the barn. Amish families in Pennsylvania still eat this dish today. I had it last spring in a kitchen near Bern, Indiana, and the woman who made it told me her grandmother served it every morning of the Depression and her family never went hungry once. The lesson is not the recipe. The lesson is the mindset. Nothing edible goes in the trash, ever. Now, here is where the suppression begins, because the next set of hacks is exactly what the government and the industries that lobby it would rather you never remembered. Hack number 4 is the home root cellar, and this is where the war on self-sufficient food storage really started. Before the 1950s, almost every rural American home had a root cellar, a small underground or partially buried space that held a constant temperature between 32 and 40 degrees year-round. No electricity required. Potatoes, carrots, beets, turnips, cabbages, apples, and winter squash could be stored for 6 to 8 months in a properly built root cellar with zero energy input. The Amish never abandoned this. A standard root cellar costs less than $400 in materials if you dig it yourself, and it can hold over 1,000 pounds of food. Compare that to a chest freezer, which costs around $600 to buy, around $150 a year to run, and which becomes a complete loss the moment the power goes out for more than 2 days. The reason root cellars disappeared from American suburbs after World War II was not because they stopped working. They stopped being built because the appliance industry needed you buying refrigerators and freezers. Hack number 5 is canning, and not the polite suburban canning you see on a cooking show. I am talking about Depression-era canning, where a family put up between 400 and 700 quart jars in a single summer. According to research from the Lancaster Farmland Trust, Amish and Mennonite women during the 1930s did the canning, the recording of consumption, and the budgeting for the entire family. They limited grocery store visits to almost nothing. Flour and sugar were the main purchases. Everything else came from the garden, the orchard, the smokehouse, or the trade network. A quart jar of green beans you canned yourself costs about 30 cents. A can from the store now costs over $2. Multiply that by 400 jars and you have saved over $600 in one season, eating better food than anything in a tin. Hack number 6 is the kitchen wood stove, which served 4 functions at once. It cooked your meals, it baked your bread, it heated your house, and it heated your water through a back of stove coil that ran into a holding tank. One stove, 4 utility bills eliminated. The Amish kept this design because it was efficient. The rest of America was sold on 4 separate appliances because 4 separate appliances mean 4 separate bills and 4 separate replacement cycles. But heating and cooking are only half of what a kitchen used to do. The other half was making everything else the family needed to live, starting with soap. Hack number 7 is the soap kettle. Lye from wood ashes mixed with rendered animal fat makes soap. That is it. That is the whole recipe. During the Depression, Amish households made all of their own soap from materials that were free. A year of soap for a family of 6 cost essentially nothing. Today, a year of soap, detergent, and cleaning supplies for that same family runs over $400. The wood ash from one winter's heating provides more than enough lye for the year. Hack number 8 is the kitchen garden, and this is where the numbers get serious. Research comparing Amish farming methods with conventional modern agriculture has found that Amish methods produce a higher yield per acre, use less energy, and create chemical-free harvests. A standard Amish farm in Wayne County, Ohio, averages 109 acres. The average American farm is 434 acres. The Amish farm, on 1/4 of the land, supports a family of 7 or 8 people with surplus to sell. The secret is diversification, crop rotation, animal manure for fertility, and saved seed. A backyard kitchen garden of 1/4 of an acre, run on these principles, can produce over 1,500 pounds of vegetables in a single growing season. But growing food is only half of the equation. What the family could not grow, they traded for, and that is hack number 9, barter. The Amish do not eliminate money. They simply minimize their need for it. Eggs trade for milk, milk trades for honey, honey trades for lumber, lumber trades for labor, no middleman, no record. Just neighbors taking care of neighbors the way Americans did for 200 years before every transaction had to flow through a bank and a tax form. Hack number 10 is what I call the family economic unit, and this is the one that hurts to hear. During the Depression, an Amish family did not consist of one breadwinner supporting 4 consumers. It consisted of 7 or 8 producers, each with a clear, valued role. Children fed chickens at 6, they milked cows at 8, they drove a team at 12. They were not labor, they were apprentices. They were the next generation of skilled, self-sufficient adults. When we removed children from useful work and turned them into pure consumers, we created the financial pressure that now crushes every American household. Now, if you already own a house and you are thinking this only applies to people building from scratch, stay with me, because this next part is specifically for you, and it is the section I would have killed to hear 40 years ago when I was paying every utility company in 3 counties. Hack number 11 is the cold pantry retrofit, and you can do it this weekend in any home built before 1980. Find the north-facing wall of your basement or the inside of an attached garage that does not get direct sun. Build a small insulated room against that wall. 6 feet by 6 feet is plenty, with 1 inch of foam board insulation on the walls and ceiling, and a small vent to the outside that you can open in winter and close in summer. The temperature inside that room will stay between 35 and 50 degrees from October through April with 0 electricity. That is a free walk-in cooler. Amish families in Ohio use this exact technique in their dotty houses, the small homes built for grandparents on the family property. It cost me $170 in materials, and it has held my garden harvest for 3 winters without a single kilowatt of power. If you have a north-facing basement wall in the house you live in right now, type north wall in the comments below. I am going to be reading these and answering as many as I can. Hack number 12 is window quilts. During the Depression, before fiberglass insulation was widely available, families quilted heavy fabric panels and hung them over windows at night. A standard double-pane window loses about 10 times more heat than the wall around it. A simple insulated curtain, old blankets, batting, and a backing of denim or canvas cuts that loss by 60 to 70%. Material cost is under $20 per window if you sew them yourself from secondhand fabric. For an average home with 12 windows, your annual heating bill drops by $300 to $400. Amish homes in Lancaster have been doing this for over a century. But the heat you save is worthless if you are still paying for water, and that is where hack number 13 comes in. The gravity-fed water system works in any existing home with a roof and a yard. Catch the rainwater from your downspouts into an elevated tank. Even a 55-gallon drum on a sturdy platform 6 feet off the ground produces enough pressure to run a garden hose, fill watering cans, and even feed a slow drip irrigation system. No pump, no electricity, no bill. The Amish in older Pennsylvania settlements have run entire farm operations on this principle for generations. Hack number 14 is the clothesline. I know how that sounds, but the average electric dryer costs between $120 and $200 a year to run, and it shortens the life of every garment you put in it. A clothesline costs about $15 and lasts 30 years. Multiply $200 a year by 30 years, that is $6,000 walking out the door because we decided hanging up a shirt was beneath us. Hack number 15 is the bread starter. A wild yeast starter, flour, water, and air costs nothing and lasts indefinitely. A loaf of homemade bread from a starter costs about 30 cents in ingredients. A grocery store loaf of comparable quality costs $5 to $7. A family that eats bread twice a day saves between $1,400 and $2,000 a year by baking their own. Amish women have kept the same starter cultures alive for over 100 years, passing them mother to daughter the way some families pass down jewelry. Bread fills the table, but the protein has to come from somewhere, and that is hack number 16, the simple smokehouse, which any homeowner with a small backyard can build for under $80. A smokehouse is just a small insulated box, a firebox at the bottom and a vent at the top. It preserves meat for 6 months to a year with no refrigeration. During the Depression, when refrigerators were a luxury most rural Americans could not afford, the smokehouse was how families kept the pork from the fall hog butchering through the entire winter and into spring. The Amish in Holmes County still smoke their own bacon and ham this way. 300 pounds of preserved meat from one hog, no electricity, no grocery store, no middleman. Hack number 17 is the herb apothecary. The Amish never stopped treating common ailments with herbs, poultices, and salves, and the research backs them up. Doctors working with Amish patients have documented requests for non-conventional treatments like burlap leaf poultices for pain regulation, and many of these remedies have measurable physiological effects. A small herb garden, 12 to 15 plants, covers most household first aid needs for under $30 a year. Compare that to the average American household pharmacy bill. Hack number 18 is what they call the wood ash garden. Wood ash from a stove or fireplace is potash, a natural fertilizer rich in potassium and calcium. Sprinkled into a vegetable garden in early spring, it raises the soil pH, kills slugs, and feeds the plants. Free fertilizer every winter sitting in your stove. The chemical fertilizer industry, which grew to over $200 billion globally, depends on you forgetting that the answer was already in your fireplace. Hack number 19 is the community work bee. When the Amish need a barn, they do not hire a contractor. They send word, and on the appointed day, 80 to 200 men arrive. The barn is up by sunset. Britannica documents these events as a constant reminder of Amish tradition, community, industry, and craft. The cost is shared meals and the obligation to show up at the next neighbor's bee. There is no reason American neighbors cannot do this. There is no law against it. We simply forgot how. A neighborhood of 12 households that worked one Saturday a month together, splitting wood, putting up food, repairing roofs, would save each family thousands of dollars a year and rebuild the kind of community that nobody can take from you. Before I tell you about the 20th hack, the one from the 1942 Walter Kollmorgen field report, one quick thing. Everything I have been digging out of these Amish kitchens and federal archives, the 5 questions principle that stops the spending before it starts, the rain barrel that catches 600 gallons free, the coffee soup, the root cellar that holds 1,000 pounds of food for under $400, the 400-jar canning summer, the wood stove that does 4 jobs at once, the soap kettle and the wild yeast starter and the wood ash fertilizer that all cost nothing, the kitchen garden that feeds a family of 8 on a quarter acre, the barter network, the cold pantry retrofit any homeowner can build this weekend for $170, the window quilts, the gravity-fed rain tank, the clothesline, the $80 backyard smokehouse, the herb apothecary, the community work bee, the 20th hack I am about to walk you through, the direct task circuit from the Belmont solar video, the cellar vent from the absorption fridge video, the $50 wall from the Trombe wall video, the Burkholder reservoir from the sand battery video, the smoke shelf from the Hans Hair video, and all the other pieces I have pulled out of Lancaster County and Holmes County over the years. I have put it all in one place, room by room, season by season, in the order the families actually use it. It is called the Amish Home System. Link is in the description. But stay right here, because what Walter Kollmorgen documented in 1942 is the one community structure that pulled the Amish through the entire Great Depression with money in the bank and not a single member on government relief. And now I want to tell you about the 20th hack, the one I told you to wait for, the one that comes straight out of the 1942 Walter Kollmorgen field report I mentioned at the start of this video. Kollmorgen was a researcher with the United States Department of Agriculture's Bureau of Agricultural Economics. In 1939, the department launched something called the Rural Life Studies Program, and Kollmorgen was assigned to study the Old Order Amish of Lancaster County, Pennsylvania. His report, titled Old Order Amish of Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, has been called by Amish scholars the starting point of Amish studies as an academic discipline. It is a primary government document, and buried inside it is a finding that the federal authorities openly admitted held an answer the rest of the country needed. Kollmorgen documented that during the entire decade of the Great Depression, the Amish of Lancaster County maintained good homes, kept money in the bank, and refused both state and federal relief, not as a political statement, but as a practical consequence of one specific economic principle. They had built what he called a mutual aid economy. When a family suffered a loss, a barn fire, a medical crisis, a crop failure, the community did not write a check from a charity. They held what is still called an alms collection. Every household contributed a specific share based on what they could give. The total was delivered in cash directly to the family in need the same week. No insurance company, no bank, No government program, no interest, no paperwork, no waiting period. The 20th hack is to build your own version of this in your own street with your own neighbors this year. It does not require a church. It does not require religion. It requires 12 to 20 households willing to put $20 or $30 a month into a shared pot held by a trusted neighbor, with one rule. The pot is for emergencies that hit any member family: a broken furnace, a sudden medical bill, a funeral, a storm-damaged roof. Whatever the family needs, the pot pays. No paperwork, no interest, no insurance adjuster. The Amish have operated this way for over 300 years. It survived the Great Depression intact. It survived 2 world wars. It survives every recession. It survives every inflation, because it does not depend on a system that can be devalued, defunded, or denied. It depends on the people who live within walking distance of your front door. Federal authorities in 1939, looking at this and seeing it work in real time, wrote that they ought to investigate Amish farms because they might find a procedure simpler and less involved than the New Deal. They never did the investigation. They did not want the procedure, because a procedure that works without Washington makes Washington unnecessary, and no agency funds its own obsolescence. That is the suppression. Not a law on a book, a study that was quietly shelved. You just recovered something that an entire department of the federal government read about, understood, and chose not to share with the rest of America. You did not lose this knowledge because it stopped working. You lost it because somebody made more money when you forgot. If you are the kind of person who believes that real wisdom was quietly pushed aside to keep someone else in business, you already know what to do next. Of these 20 hacks, the one I want to hear about from you is the cold pantry retrofit, because I think that is the one most of you can finish before the snow flies. Tell me in the comments below if you have a north-facing basement wall, an attached garage, or a covered porch where you could build one. Tell me what you have on hand. I read every comment. And if you do not normally leave one tonight, because the rest of this community is sitting on Amish techniques I have not even documented yet, and your one sentence might be the thing another viewer needs. Subscribe and turn on the bell, not because I am asking for a favor, but because every week another piece of this knowledge comes back out of those kitchen tables in Holmes County and lands here first. Next week, I am sitting down with a man whose family has been running the same hand-built water system on their property since 1934, with 0 electricity, 0 pumps, and 0 municipal water, and he is going to show me exactly how it works. You will want to see that one. Keep what you learned tonight, tell somebody in your family, and remember, the moment you stop depending on the system stops owning you.